The vast region of Siberia makes up 77% of Russia, but only 23 of these are inhabited. In the remaining 23 completely uninhabited areas, strange things have been found, and many unexplained and mysterious things have happened, such as the Tunguska event. However, scientists recently discovered something astounding: a prehistoric virus that has been dormant beneath the ice for millions of years. Even stranger, massive craters are now appearing across the frozen Siberian tundra inexplicably. Hello and welcome to AWZ News. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. What have scientists discovered? And do these new findings warrant concern? Although there are several distinct regions in Siberia, the largest is the West Siberian Plain, which is located in central Russia and boasts one of the longest continuous flatland expanses in the world. This vast area is primarily flat and marshy, but the northern plains are dominated by permafrost, which formed over millions of years. In 2014, while examining ice cores taken from 100 feet deep in the permafrost, a team of French microbiologists from the University of Marseille discovered something astounding that had been frozen deep within the ice for 30,000 years. A long-extinct viral strain known as Pithivirus siberism was discovered entombed alongside other frozen species 10 years ago. Prior to this finding, no successfully living or surviving sample of the virus had ever been discovered. Researchers added bits of ice core samples to colonies of amoeba to see if the viruses in the permafrost could infect them. Soon after, the single-celled organisms began to die off, a sign that something in the permafrost was fatal to them. The scientists examined the amoeba off. They discovered the giant virus measured 1,000 of a millimeter in length in them, multiplying inside the when more familiar viruses such as the influenza virus have 13 genes and are about 100 nanometers across, but in comparison giant viruses like Pithivirus can be 1,000 times bigger and have more than 2,500 genes. But is it something we should be worried about? Thankfully, this particular virus does not infect humans or other animals as far as we know, but its ability to survive after being frozen for millennia has raised concerns that global climate change in Siberian drilling operations could release previously undiscovered and potentially dangerous viruses into our atmosphere. A similar scenario of this happening became reality in 2016 when an anthrax outbreak happened in the Yamalo-Nenets region of northern Siberia. A heat wave during the summer months raised the temperature of the region to over 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Colonies permafrost melted and exposed the frozen remains of Anthrax amoeba. Infected, the anthrax spores were released into the reindeer. People were and over 2,000 reindeer were infected in air. 8 living in the area were evacuated 40 miles away from the infected, perished. Government sent in troops trained in biological warfare to deal with the emergency bacteria outbreak. But there is no telling when this could happen. The Russian idea of an ancient, deadly virus being awoken is scary, and the rapidly changing climate is a real concern. And again, the entire northern region is warming at a rate 2.5 times faster than the rest of the planet, thought the Siberia researchers. The permafrost has retreated and has reduced in Siberian, with temperatures increasing from 2 to 4 degrees over the last 197 years. Could we see another prehistoric virus emerge from the permafrost? Only time will tell, but there is something else incredibly bizarre happening in Siberia, and the discovery could have created them. This crater was Rip years of the frozen ground and measured 65 feet in diameter. Blocks of ice and dirt were flung hundreds of feet from the center of the crater. It appeared that the open hole quickly filled with water, forming a lake. The first crater was discovered in July 2014 when Russian helicopter pilots spotted the mysterious hull in the permafrost that seemed to appear out of nowhere. No one has actually seen an explosion or captured one on camera, but in 2017, a reindeer herder reported hearing a loud bang and seeing smoke rising from the ground. Later, a crater measuring 25 feet in diameter and 65 feet deep was found, surrounded by large blocks of ice and chunks of soil. Contrary to popular belief, the explosions coming from these are not at all like those from volcanoes. Ice volcanoes are much different. These holes are most likely created by the explosive combination of methane gas, ice water, and mud. But they don't really explode as much as they eject the material, like a volcano does with lava. A mound begins to grow, called a pingo. When the pressure inside becomes too great, they burst open gas pockets under the mounds. These pockets come from the permafrost melting very quickly, and even small temperature changes in sediments produce huge amounts of methane gas. A major source of methane is organic matter made of dead plants and animals that have been frozen deep in the permafrost for thousands of years. As the organic matter decays, it gets eaten and digested by bacteria that produces either carbon dioxide or methane as waste. If the ground thaws, then it releases carbon dioxide or methane into the atmosphere. And this is the big problem for the planet because methane gas can very efficiently absorb heat in the Earth's atmosphere and is 30 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Considering how big some of the holes are, it would likely be dangerous if someone were close enough where gas could erupt. But since this land isn't occupied, then it's not a big threat to people. Russian scientists say there are many thousands of these mounds, and some of them appear to be growing, ready to explode into craters. The latest of these craters was found in September 2020 when a bubble of methane gas that had been swelling under the melting permafrost burst open to form a big 164-foot deep crater. So far, there have been around 20 of these craters discovered. But these are not the only craters to have been found. There's something even bigger and more ominous. Massive slumps are also starting to form, and the biggest of these is Buttergaker crater, known to locals as the gateway to the underworld. Buttergaker is the biggest permafrost crater in the world and lies in the East Siberian taiga ecoregion. The land here began to sink after forests around the sea were cleared, causing a thawing of permafrost in the 1960s. Without the cooling effects of the trees, the frozen soil started to melt, causing it to collapse and slump. Now this yawning pit is more than half a mile wide and 328 feet deep. The crater is always alive and growing at an alarming rate, about 30 to 100 feet per year. When the weather is warm, researchers can hear the constant crackling of melting ice and hear groans as big slabs of permafrost, some as big as cars, break and fall off the head. While like the smaller craters, the crater is also releasing previously trapped carbon dioxide and methane gases into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change. Researchers have been taking samples from the crater, and the bottom layers of permafrost are dated to 650,000 years old, the oldest permafrost in the world. Remains of ancient forests can be found here, preserved for eons in the permafrost, and researchers say sediment layers in the crater could reveal thousands of years of the Earth's history as the crater expands. Scientists are discovering well-preserved remains of plants and animals that have been extinct since the Ice Age. With all these craters being found, scientists are warning that Siberia's melting permafrost could become a major environmental disaster. And now scientists have found a startling number of 7,000 mounds or pingos, which could be gas-filled bubbles ready to explode at any time. Now work is being done to try and figure out which of these are dangerous or not. Scientists believe they understand these craters, how they're formed, and what problems they pose for the environment. But there is another mysterious crater in Siberia, and no one's exactly sure how it was created and where it came from. The Tomsky crater was discovered in the Irkutsk region in southeastern Siberia in 1945 by a geologist named Vadim Kolpakov, named after the Potomsky River. Local residents called it the nest of the fire eagle. The cone of this crater has a very strange shape with a small mound in the center, which is 130 feet tall and 100 meters across at the base. By counting 3 rings growing on the crater, scientists calculated the crater to be around 250 years old. But the strange thing is that the trees around the crater show accelerated growth similar to growth seen in forests around Chernobyl after the nuclear disaster in 1986. Since the crater was discovered, many have tried to figure out what created it. Some researchers have tried to link it to the Tunguska meteorite, which still has not been discovered. Some believe it's the remnants of some type of volcano, but no volcanic material has ever been found. In fact, the entire structure consists of broken gray limestone. The mystery surrounding the creation of the Potomsky crater remains unsolved, and there is no conclusive evidence to support this theory. Perhaps in the future, however, we will be able to answer these and other questions. So be sure to check back often for more amazing and Earth-related stories.